We continue with Big South Member Recognition Week, as this week we celebrate the Presbyterian College Blue Hose and welcome in longtime head coach Elton Pollock. Coach, good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too, Mark. Thank you for having me. Really excited to talk with you this afternoon.
Well, we are excited to get to know you a little bit more and learn about both your baseball and football days at PC, as well as being the longtime head coach, 16 years with the Blue Hose. So first question is, how special is it for you to be a head coach at your alma mater?
That would go without saying, to be honest. It's an honor, it's a privilege to represent PC every day and to really represent the entire community that we reside, or where the college resides, the Clinton community, Lawrence County, and holds a special place to my heart. That would be an understatement. It's been very good to my family, or at least was when we lived here for about 10 years. And we've since made the move to the Columbia area, which is Irmo to be exact, where I'm from. And my parents are still there. So my wife's mom is still in the Columbia area. So we get a chance to be closer to family on that end. Her commute is a lot less to work. Mine's a little greater, but a lot of times I need that going to and from the ball field. So I get a chance to decompress, if you will, before I get home, and I can be dad when I get there. So, but I'm honored and privileged for the administrations that I've been privileged to work for, the ADs I've been able to work for during my time at PC, and just an honor and privilege to, in a sense, give back to the institution that has given so much to me.
So you first joined the PC coaching staff in 2002 after spending 7 years in the private sector in private business. What was your profession during that time? And when did you decide you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, at PC, my minor was computer science. I was a sociology major, actually. I thought I wanted to be a sociology professor. My favorite professor at PC during that time was a man named Chuck McKelvey, and he influenced me in a lot of different ways, just from a social aspect and just getting to see a lot of different things. I was also influenced just personally in my life by Dr. King and a lot of the things that he endured and the changes that he made in our world. And so that was really the premise for that. But computer science was what I wanted to major in, and we only offered a minor at that time. So I took every computer class that PC offered at the time. And so when I was in the real world, I would say real world, my profession was in network engineering, and I was a network technician with MCI WorldCom for a number of years, as well as did tech support for Delta Airlines. And so that was my area. I started in the Atlanta area, moved to the RTP area around Cary, North Carolina, and spent some time there. My former head coach, Doug Kovash, who was the head coach at PC my final 2 years, was here and had just lost his assistant during that time, who took the head job at St. Edward's College in Texas, and he had a vacancy in the on his coaching staff, and gave me my first opportunity to coach at that time. So very grateful to him in a number of areas throughout my life. He's been very influential in a number of areas. So that's how I got back into the game after a stint outside the game.
So in that time, has your coaching style, your approach, or your philosophy changed in your 16 years? Do you emphasize different aspects of the game than previously?
Man, I have evolved majorly in the game, and I'd like to think it's for the better. And really mainly because of the relationships I have with the guys, really for the past 10 years versus the first 5 or 6 years as a head coach. I'll be honest, I can tell you just flat out that I didn't do it correctly on the front end, because everything was push for results, and it was not rooted in the relationships of the kids. And that part's changed. I've changed that part, and I feel very strongly about, just what we've been able to accomplish from a relationship standpoint. And quite honestly, our teams are better. Our teams are more competitive. The atmosphere, the culture that we come to work to every day, it stems from the top. And being able to create that environment is pretty special to me. And having that relationship where guys come into your office and just, plop down and talk about life is very real, and very fortunate that they think of me in that regard, to where they can share and where we can talk about different things. I mean, I love to do a lot of things outside of the game, and I can relate to them. And I think that's something that's very important. And so during that last 10 years, I mean, I was trying to be a good head coach. But I think as I transitioned, and really as the program started to transition to Division I, we took a lot of lumps through those transitions. And during that time, you got to figure out ways to reinvent, different ways to recruit, different ways to connect. And so what I found myself doing was becoming an assistant coach all over again, to be in the cages, to spend that necessary time just more or less not only getting to know their swings, getting to know who they were or who they are as people and players, but just really defining some moments where we could find some common ground to talk about things other than just baseball. So I think that's the biggest reinvention, if I can say anything, was just doing it over again, having to learn that it's not just about telling the guys what to do, but being able to show them, connect. Some guys are visual learners, some guys are very practical in what they do and have to feel it. And I was the type of player, I had to literally feel it. So that would be kind of the baseline for how I transition as a coach, how my style has changed. It's just much more personal, much more relationship driven, and I'm very proud of that.
So when you played both baseball and football at PC, what positions did you play? And how were you able to juggle both sports with academics?
I had some very good coaches. I had some guys that allowed me to miss time from each to be able to participate in the other. I came in that way, played for my head football coach at the time was PC alum John Perry, and his staff had some very good coaches that I can name. I mean, Jeff Farrington, Citadel grad, who's the head coach at North Greenville College now, was very influential at that time. He was my defensive back coach. So I started off as a cornerback, returned punts and kickoffs, and then transitioned my sophomore year to free safety, which I loved and what I played in high school. I played little corner on the front end, but I made my biggest impact as a freshman on special teams. And so I felt like that was my way to kind of, show and prove that I could play the game and really wanted to play it at a high level. So I was designated the wedge buster. So first guy streaking down, I don't think you can even do that anymore. They don't do kickoffs quite like they used to, but I would use my feet in an attempt to just bust up the wedge and create havoc. So that's what I was known for, at least early on. And that kind of transitioned into more playing time at the corner position and then the free safety position, and eventually to team captain as that was concerned.
So what did you learn from the experience of playing two sports in college?
That is hard. That is very difficult to do and maintain your studies and everything else. I mentioned having good coaches on the baseball side. That would have been Tim Corbin, who's the head coach at Vanderbilt, who recruited me here at PC, and who I'm very grateful for, and obviously very influential to this day in a number of areas as well. But the discipline and things that he taught, as well as on the football side that was taught, it's just a different era. I mean, it's just a different time in sports where they instilled, at least for me, a foundation that I really just did not want to disappoint them. And I think that was something, and really if I transition anything else over, is to create that type of atmosphere, but not out of fear, but more so just out of respect of how the kids go about their game and how they play it on a daily basis. So, from the academic side of things, it was just a matter of getting over the fact that you're always tired and really making the necessary sacrifices from being a socialite, if you will, and really having to focus and study and accomplish the things that you want to accomplish on that end as well. and having some very good professors to make that happen as well. I mean, one of my most favorite professors from that time was an English professor who is actually still a professor here at PC to this day. His name is Harold Dean Thompson. Been an awesome influence. As a matter of fact, he is a big supporter of PC baseball and started out of his own dime the Field of Dreams scholarship that is still functioning and provided to a special member of the baseball program who meets certain criteria that scholarship is named for. So it's a good thing, and the people make everything happen. So, having good people around you you can juggle both, but you don't see it as much today. It was just a different era when you had Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders. I had great aspiration, Brian Jordan, of trying to take it to that level. And, football at that time obviously paid for the majority of my school. So my family was just a hardworking, blue-collar, straight-up family. Was the first to graduate from college in my household, even though my parents both were exposed to college. But they went to work, and there's a lot of respect in that for taking care of their family. But hopefully I made them proud by being the first one in the house. And then each of my brothers, I've got two brothers, they followed suit and did very well and still do very well to this day.
Well, you played 3 years of professional ball in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. You were a 15th round draft choice back in '95. Which legendary Pirates did you get to work with when you were playing? And how much of that experience do you teach to your team?
Well, when I was drafted by the Pirates, it was right on the cusp of Bonds, Bonilla, and Van Slyke leaving the organization. So I think the Pirates have been working to get back to that prominence ever since those guys left. But the most influential legendary Pirate would have been Willie Stargell, who was very much involved in our process in spring training. He mentored several players, including myself, and his wisdom that he imparted was more life, I would say, than baseball at that time. Yeah, he rode around on the golf cart. He had a huge straw hat on every day. He had a cigar that was about 2 feet long, and he was just a presence, legendary presence. So what it did was made me research, because I was really young when he played, but it made me just go back and watch video, which and everyone has total access to now. But his impact on Pittsburgh, just on the game in itself. I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Fame. You're talking about so many accolades and just what he meant to our organization at the time. It was mad respect, if I must say, if I can speak in those terms. But he was, I think that if I could share one thing that he shared with me, I can remember one, I was hanging out. This was my first year in spring training. This was '96 spring training. And I was hanging out with one of the players on a 40-man roster. His name is Charles Peterson. Recently passed away from complications of COVID. He was long-term scout and did some things with the Global Scouting Bureau, but most recently was with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Very straight-up guy, very good baseball player, athlete in general, football as well as baseball in high school. But Charles Peterson and I got really close because we're both from South Carolina. We worked out together in the off seasons, and I'm hanging out with him and a bunch of guys that are bound to the big leagues, and then you got this little pup hanging out. And so I didn't make it back in time for curfew or whatever at Pirate City that particular night. And nobody checked. It's just like, hey, but I knew. And so I got up late that next morning, tried to grab a quick bite to eat. The whole team, my team is already on the field, ready to stretch. And I'm sprinting on the field with my pants halfway on and my, glove on my head and my hat. And man, Lord, I had to run right by Willie Stargell, by Pollock. And he stopped me on the way out. He was like, "Hold on, running late today." I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he said, "Come here. Let me talk. And I knew I was going to be late at that point when he pulled me over there. They could see me talking to him, so I had an excuse. But he said, "I'm going to give you one nugget." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And I'm looking him in his eyes, and he says, "You know, baseball players come a dime a dozen." And I'm like, wow. Wow. And it was just silence after that. And so I sprint on out to my position, obviously hurt because I know what that meant. And, you know, in so many capacities, you know, you try to teach. And in essence, what he was telling me was that, man, you better get your stuff together or you're going home, you know. And, you know, that opportunity, you know, a lot of people get it, but not very many take advantage of it. So don't squander the gifts that God has blessed you with, and go out there and play with the best of your ability and take it as far as you can. So that one conversation was probably the deepest conversation that I had with him. Probably the few words that in any conversation that we had, but forever grateful for how that changed me as a man, to be totally honest, and as a player.
All that was very fascinating. We're going to kind of take on some lighter topics now to get a little bit more personal with you. The first question is, who was your favorite baseball player?
My favorite baseball player of all time would have to be Jackie Robinson. You can look behind me and see the number 42 at the top of my thing back here. And I don't know, he did so much for our game. There's so much documented about Jackie Robinson and just the things that he had to endure. A lot of things that are still even prevalent today as we see in society. But he is just the man that he was on so many levels. You know, I'm very, very dialed into what Jackie Robinson meant, not just as a baseball player, but to play with that kind of pressure, to play with the hopes of an entire race on your shoulders.
So if you could pick anyone to have a game of catch with, who would that be?
You mean still living or ever?
Ever. Anyone you want.
You know what, to be honest with you, I mean, I am, and those that know me, I mean, I'm a man of faith, and that's what drives me. I would probably play catch with Jesus Christ. I would see whether or not, see what his slider looks like, see what his heater, see what a real heater looks like, and go from there.
So what was the first Major League Baseball game you attended? How old were you? You know, who were the teams? Any great memories about that day?
Well, some awesome memories about that day. Number one, it was an Atlanta Braves game. I can't even tell you the opponent, and that's how dialed in we were to the Atlanta side of things. And I'll give you some reasons why. Number one, I was almost too young to really remember it, but I had a cousin that was playing for the Braves at the time, and his name was Terry Blocker. And my dad took us to that game. My brother, my second brother, and I. And it was just, I was in awe. I was just struck, you know. I grew up a Dale Murphy fan, and I tried to copy everything about his swing and setup. And, you know, I was, you know, Claudell Washington and Chris Chambliss and Glenn Hubbard and some of the old names during that time with the Braves, Rafael Ramirez and these other players. I was just struck. I thought they were gods. I didn't even think they were real. I mean, because you could turn the TV off and they disappear, you know, and then you turn it back on. And, you know, we always knew when the Braves were playing. My dad was always dialed into that. So he taught me how to love the Braves for better or for worse. And it was for worse during those times. And the seats Fulton County Stadium was not full at that time. So we were able to go right down to the edge of the bullpen, talk to Terry. I couldn't believe my dad knew a big leaguer. I didn't know Terry growing up. Obviously, he was from the same community, but and I was too young for the talks of how good he was, you know, to even conceptualize what that looked like. So that was back. That was probably 1979 during that time. 78, 79, around there. We were just young pups, and I was just starting to love the game just picking up a baseball and throwing it, and, so that was my first experience with it.
You had 34 home runs as a collegiate player. So which current Big South head coach would you want to challenge to a home run derby?
That would probably be my boy Ryan Mile. I'd probably challenge Mile to a home run derby just for some bragging rights. Now, and we would have to revert back to playing days and to actually hit him, but that'd probably be some pretty good trash talking between he and I, and a lot of mutual respect on both ends of that. But he's a good friend of mine. We talk offline, and I want no parts of Cozart. I mean, there's no telling what he can accomplish. Cozy can probably hit home runs right now and throw 95. So, I don't want any parts of that.
Coach, our last question for you, and you've shared some great experiences already, but what is something else about you that your team does not know and will be very surprised to learn?
Wow, that's a terrible question. Oh, man. I'm pretty transparent with my team, to be totally honest. I know teams of the past have heard the story, and I didn't share this with them, but Coach Kovash, I had him speak to our team prior to a game. I think we were at Auburn at the time, and I missed curfew one time as a player, and I was disciplined for that. Saw an interesting message yesterday from White Sox scout Kevin Burrell that talked about discipline versus punishment. And so I thought it was punishment at the time. I didn't know the difference, but I think the biggest thing is that punishment has a negative connotation and discipline has a love aspect to it. So I was disciplined for missing curfew, suspended for a game during a time where I was really wanted to play professional baseball. And it was nobody's fault but my own. I was pretty bitter about the fact that the discipline was going to be implemented immediately, and I was going to have to miss a conference game after a good day on the ball field, a doubleheader. I had a great day. And so I chose celebration versus, locking it back in and getting ready to go for a sweep in a conference series. And it cost me. And I have Coach Kovash to thank for that discipline and really showing me how it's supposed to be done. And so I had no more issues moving forward. I think the kids are here to play the game. A lot of times, when you mess up or, when you do have your shortcomings, sometimes you have to take games away for guys to realize that it's important. And so, guys are in shape. They can run. They can, we call it additional conditioning or whatever that may be, whatever breakfast club is what some coaches call it or whatnot. But, I think the games are why they're there. And so when you hang that carrot over their heads, typically things fall in line with what your rules and regulations or standards and expectations, as we call them, fall in line. So I've been in trouble before. I'm not a saint. So I think that's what I would share with anybody is that, when you screw up, you have to pay the price. And I was shown that from someone that loved me as a coach and still loves me to this day, and I'm very appreciative.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your honesty, your great stories of how you got to PC both as a player and as a coach. Again, we really appreciate the time, getting to know you a lot better, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome to share with you, and even more so, just the fact that you would think of me in this way. I'm appreciative. Thank you to you and to the Big South Conference.